Hey Night Riders, DisRegarding Henry here with another Unmade Masterpieces Quickie. Harmony Korine has made some very strange movies. We can all agree on that, right? Whether he's examining schizophrenia, Michael Jackson impersonators, or the sexual molestation of trash, he's always guaranteed to show you something you've probably never seen before. What could be stranger than the movies he's already made? How about the movies he hasn't made? And there are a lot of them, like Twinkle Twinkle, rumored for production in 2010, which would have starred Marlon Wayans as a former hitman who dresses up like a dollar bill, or Below the Waist Above the Ankles from around 2008, about a woman who puts her husband into a trance and can't get him out of it. He then becomes convinced he's a goat and regurgitates eggs all day. We don't know much about these projects. Hell, we don't even know if they were real. The thing about Korine is, well, he's just as much a storyteller off-screen as he is on-screen. There's much more solid evidence supporting the existence of something like Jokes, an unfinished screenplay made up of 3 separate stories, each of which would have been helmed by a different director. I will be covering more of this in a later video. And of course there was Fight Harm, which I already have covered. The movie where Korine went around fighting strangers on the street while David Blaine filmed the carnage with a hidden video camera. It seems more and more info keeps popping up about this one too, like the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio was apparently involved as an assistant camera operator. But the strangest, most mysterious Korine film that never was is arguably a screenplay titled What Makes Pistachio Nuts. Korine has, on multiple occasions, defined this script as his masterpiece, his definitive work, his legacy. Now, there's a lot we don't know about it, and most of the information that is available is often contradictory, as is typically the case with Korine. I've done my best to be as complete and thorough as possible, but for reasons that will be made clear in a moment, there's only so much I can really cobble together. What follows is everything I was able to discover about Harmony Korine's What Makes Pistachio Nuts. So, what is this movie about? Well, like I said, most of the bits and pieces out there contradict each other in various ways. According to the unofficial fan site HarmonyKorine.com, the film was intended as a remake of Rainer Werner Fassbinder's 1970 film Why Does Herr R Run Amok? And would have starred Johnny Depp. According to most other sources, it was something slightly different. The story followed a young man living in Tennessee, circa 1976, after, or possibly during, an apocalyptic race war. This man is obsessed with Soviet politician and theorist Leon Trotsky, he's preoccupied with a desire to create the world's stickiest glue, and he happens to own the country's largest pig, named Pistachio. One day, in a move that would make Homer Simpson proud, he covers Pistachio's hooves in a new glue he has just concocted. So sticky, it grants the pig the ability to walk up walls and even across ceilings. He fits Pistachio with a saddle and quickly becomes a sensation, charging admission to allow locals to watch him ride his miraculous, gravity-defying pig. A bit of a gap follows, and I'm not exactly sure how the rest of the story fits together, but I believe at some point the man's house is firebombed, prompting him to move to an anarchic Florida suburb where he scales the sides of buildings astride Pistachio, raining down Molotov cocktails and making pro-Trotsky speeches. And that's about all we know plot-wise. This apparently lengthy and ambitious script has been modestly described by Korine as a great epic, possibly the greatest story ever told. So why don't we know more about it? Why hasn't Korine released it to the public? Well, to answer that, first we must delve into the dark history of this project. In the mid to late 90s, the incredibly young and determined Korine was at the most infamous, productive, and self-destructive point in his rapidly maturing career. His first produced screenplay, for Larry Clark's wildly controversial directorial debut Kids in 1995, instantly made him an underground icon. Just 2 years later, at the age of 23, he made his own directorial debut with the equally hypnotic and terrifying Gummo. He wrote an experimental novel, directed a sophomore feature under the rules of the Dogma 95 manifesto, and even wrote another script for Larry Clark, which wouldn't be produced until 2002. It seemed he wasn't going to slow down either. More and more projects were lining up. He started shooting Fight Harm around 1998. Jokes went into production in 2000, and Gus Van Sant hired him to write the script for his 2003 drama Elephant. But abruptly, things stopped coming together for him. Fight Harm was abandoned after numerous arrests and hospitalizations, Jokes was cancelled when the first bits of footage didn't turn out the way he envisioned it, and Van Sant never received the script for Elephant, later choosing to write it himself. Korine's personal life began imploding. Again, it's hard to piece together what is fact and what is exaggeration, but he allegedly started routinely shooting heroin, smoking crystal meth, eating mushrooms, popping quaaludes, smoking crack, and drinking heavily. Understandably, he's long been reluctant to discuss this rather dire period of his life, but in more recent interviews has begun opening up about it. He describes feeling profoundly disillusioned with his life, disconnected from himself and the people around him. His girlfriend, Chloe Sevigny, was finding his increasingly erratic behavior more and more difficult to handle. As he spiraled deeper into drug addiction, the two separated, and Korine decided to abandon New York City, buying a house in Connecticut to live by himself. Somewhere around this time, in the late 90s, early 2000s, is when he probably started writing the script for Pistachio, when he was, quote, really messed up in the head. He's mentioned that in his isolation and drug-induced delirium, he began developing a fascination with pig rides, likely one point of inspiration. Other possible influences may have come from his parents, whom he has described as Marxists turned Trotskyites, and a 1992 book on early sound comedy and vaudeville aesthetic, two of Korine's passions, titled What Made Pistachio Nuts by Henry Jenkins. He finished the script around 2001, or at least got it near 60% finished, before his life truly began to spin completely out of control. He'd taken to wrapping himself in tinfoil, carrying loaded squirt guns wherever he went, and wearing shower caps to keep his thoughts inside his head. Under mysterious circumstances, his house burned down. A few months later, a second one burned down too. Korine lost nearly all of his possessions, including some tapes storing footage for Fight Harm, and his laptop, which contained the only copy of his script for Pistachio, as well as a few others, like one called None's the Word, an idea he would later incorporate into his 2007 feature Mr. Lonely. By this point, utterly broke and nearly unemployable, he retreated to Europe, traveling through England and Germany, eventually settling in Paris, France, where he basically lived for a short time as a derelict, before he ran into French fashion designer Agnes B, a big fan of his work. Upon seeing the intense personal and artistic crisis he had fallen into, she generously stepped in to help support him as he contemplated his uncertain future. All his life, he'd wanted to be a director, and now, before he'd even turned 30, he was fed up with it. He didn't want to make films anymore. He wasn't even sure he wanted to go on living. Around 2003, when his teeth started falling out, he was finally convinced to get his life back in order and sought treatment in a methadone clinic. He claims to have spent the next few years traveling the world, working odd jobs as a lifeguard, then a bricklayer's assistant, before winding up in a remote Panama jungle where he spent about 6 months with a fisherman's cult called the Malingerers. Korine joined this group on a fanatic search for the elusive baboon fish, or the Malingerer, a golden-scaled carp said to possess certain musical abilities. Again, let me state, I don't know how much of this is actually true, and in reality, what probably happened is that Korine simply moved back to his childhood hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, to spend some time in deep personal reflection. By 2005, after he had sobered up and gotten married, he slowly began to move back into filmmaking, directing a few television documentaries and music videos. It was in 2007 that he released his first feature-length film in about 8 years, Mr. Lonely, co-written with his younger brother Avi and produced by Agnes B. Since then, things appear to have finally leveled out for him. He's rediscovered his creative drive without losing any of his adventurousness or originality, and scored a major subversive hit with 2013's Spring Breakers. But he didn't forget about What Makes Pistachio Nuts right away. After retrieving his possessions from the charred remains of his houses, he desperately attempted to recover the script from his melted laptop. Supposedly, he would spend at least $11,000, possibly as much as $15,000, and legend has it, even sent the hard drive to NASA to salvage whatever he could. In the end, only a single sentence survives. The speech is pointless. The finger is speechless. What Makes Pistachio Nuts sounds like it would have been a bizarre and hilarious shot of pure Korine insanity, and it's a shame we'll never get to see it. A part of me even doubts it ever existed. You can never be sure with this guy. Could there be any chance we'll see some version of this story in the future? I suppose it's possible. According to a 2008 article from NashvilleScene.com, he does still have the script note cards, which appears to confirm that it was indeed a real thing. Still, I can't help but feel that this is something from a separate era of his life. Perhaps he can't rewrite it. He certainly never expressed a desire to do so. I think he may just be a different person today, with new stories he wants to tell, in new ways. I think this particular story's time has passed, and Korine is content to leave it as nothing more than a beautiful dream. If you'd like to learn more about this project or the wild life of Harmony Korine, check out the highly illuminating Harmony Korine interviews, edited by Eric Kahn, as well as the many online articles sourced throughout this video. This has been Disregarding Henry with an Unmade Masterpieces Quickie. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, leave a comment, and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Be sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel too, like the previous Unmade Masterpieces covering a version of Interstellar that would have been directed by Steven Spielberg. Or how about another quickie on Werner Herzog's The Conquest of Mexico? If you like Harmony Korine, you'll probably like Herzog as well. And check out my brother's show Rough Cuts, where he looks at different versions of movies and compares and contrasts them. The latest episode is on comedy classic This Is Spinal Tap. If you've ever wondered what that movie would be like if it were 4 hours long, this video has the answer. And if that's not enough, you can also watch episode 1, covering Brian De Palma's bizarre psychological thriller Raising Cain. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!